One approach to coming up with more ideas is to just let it flow. So as you propose your ideas, you don't consider whether they can work out or whether they make any sense or not. You just let it all out. The second step would then be to censor and consider whether the ideas make any sense or not. But in the first stage, you don't worry about that. You just come up with any idea, as weird as it may sound, and try to have fun with it. So according to this book, you can see here, they're saying creativity has moved up in the world, where it used to be a nice to have. Now it's a need to have. Our fast-moving world demands creative responses, and the practical strategies and exercises in this book promote exactly that: creativity on demand. Basically, the core message of this book is that highly creative people are good at seeing connections. By enhancing your ability to see connections, you can enhance your creativity. So then, how do people learn to see more connections? As you see, these are all artistic interpretations, making connections between things that we would never connect generally, and then they're reinterpreted in an artistic way. I like this quote: "When the winds of challenge blow, some build walls, others build windmills." So, if you wonder, for example, what kind of connections you can make, take a look at this one. You can make visual connections. You can make verbal connections, which is something that poets tend to do. You can make connections by building on the work of other creative or talented people, and then you can do scientific connections. Here, a typical hack that scientists use is this so-called mimicry, which is basically intentionally looking to nature for clues, solutions, analogies, and insights. One exercise of this book, let me show you. Is to heighten your observation skills. So the challenge is to take a walk. The walk we want you to take is no ordinary walk. This walk is a chance to look at the world and see it differently. And then, as a bonus activity, choose a photograph from your walk and create a before and after picture series to show the image you saw and the vision you created. 10 different solutions and write them down, or 20 or 30, whatever. Anyway, the idea is that you can train your creativity muscle that you build up over time. So the more you flex it, the better it gets. So for example, the first challenge they have here, it's list 10 things that you don't like and then turn them into things you can be grateful for. I encourage you to try this exercise. Here, for example, for the second exercise, list 10 apps you would like to use. It does not matter whether they already exist or not. Think of what would be helpful for you in particular. So hope that these two exercises can stimulate your brain. Write down as many silly ideas that come to your mind. It can be anything. So maybe out of those 20 or 30 or 50 ideas, maybe they're all trash, but one of them or two of them spark some, I don't know, they come out of a vision and in some way bring you in a new direction or open some new perspective. Or maybe one of those ideas is actually something that you could develop in a way. We might also think that our ideas are silly because everything that can be invented has been invented or thought of before. But that is not true. Also, it's that thought that limits us. And even if something had been invented or done before, maybe your approach is unique or is in some way different. So you can always add value with your thought and your solution. Okay. Now, let's look at these cards. These cards are the Edison Deck from BestSelf. It's advertised as a tool for everyday ideas, and in some way it's an extension of the book that I just explained to you. Let's take a look. Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. So this Edison Deck, what does it say? Idea generation is a habit as well as a skill. This means you can train your brain to come up with ideas at will. It's why we designed the Edison Deck, packed with prompts to spark ideas, the good, the bad, and the ugly. This system turns ordinary thinkers into idea machines. So have fun, use it daily, and get ready to unlock your next lightbulb moment. Pick a card from the deck and write 10 ideas from the prompt. Necessity truly is the mother of all invention, so challenge yourself by setting a timer. You will see your creativity increase the more you push yourself. Reflect and expand on the ideas you like. Are there any actions you need to take from your ideas? As you exercise your creative muscles, thinking outside of the box will become easier. Let's jump in and flex those creative muscles with the Edison Deck. So here, you see, they have 6 categories. I will just pick 3 cards out of 3 different random categories. Let's take a look what kind of prompts they have. By the way, it's a very aesthetically pleasing deck. Okay, let's go with the future. The legacy you hope you leave behind. So imagine you give yourself 10 minutes and you write down 10 things, 10 ideas that come to your mind about the legacy you hope to leave behind. how you could become the person who would attract the connections you want. So, for example, what character traits or what kind of actions you need to take that would bring you to your goals. I mean, this also helps brainstorm what actually connections that you want. Maybe you're not even aware of what exactly you want. For fun, let's try the last one. Let's do a random one. I don't even know what this is supposed to be. Okay, the random one. Okay, it's laws you'd implement if you were in charge. So set yourself a timer and write down 10 laws. So it makes you think about issues that you care about. Think about the priorities you have, what your values are, and then how you would implement these laws. So this was the Edison Deck. And now, a last card deck I would like to introduce is called Intuiti. It's by this company, Sefirot. It's an Italian company. And basically, it's a deck of cards that help creative people, or help develop your creativity. So I will do a sample exercise with them. Okay. They have two sets of cards, two different types of cards. One set is the, let me see, you can see here the primary, and one is the secondary. So let's put the secondary away. By the way, they're super aesthetic. So let's read their interpretation of creativity. So they say, we often wonder what creativity is, where it comes from, and if it can be taught. What key is needed to access it? And we get so lost in these conjectures that we forget that it has always been inside us, waiting to be awakened. Creativity is a dream that is born in the unconscious, where the unit of measurement is an image without borders, and no geometry or mathematics can extrapolate its function. Its higher expression is the illumination that strikes us, warms us, makes us feel alive. We must feel creativity, let it speak freely as a primary need. It's a divine fire that makes us different, masters of reality. It doesn't need to be studied and provoked, it just needs to be inspired. It just needs to be intuited. The point they are making is that creativity comes out of intuition. And so what we can do is train our intuition. Okay, so let me try one of their exercises. One exercise, for example, this creative vocation exercise, which is, for example, I pick my current situation, where I would like to arrive, and my driver, how to arrive. So I'm gonna pick these 3 cards randomly out of this primary deck, and then I will read their interpretations and see if it sparks any kind of connection and insight for me. Okay, let me first shuffle the deck. She walks again along the avenue, and as a child she runs over the hill, and as a woman she admires the sky while he comes near. She finds herself again that morning because she sees the clouds inside the glass. Do what you can do better. Just a reminder, this is where I am. This is where I want to go. Okay, 21. She walks and dances. She devotes herself to the joy of life. She puts a cross step in her walk, and she spins on herself like that, without reason, just for the fun of seeing the colors of the world turning around her, and so that the world too realizes that she is turning with it. It's time to connect the dots. So as you see where I'm coming from, do what you can do better. And what I would like to do, where I would like to reach is, it's time to connect the dots. Let's see my driver, how I'm supposed to get there. Okay. 14. Pain makes her unhappy. It prevents her from sleeping, smiling, living, so she makes it a drip out of her. She distills it, she transforms it in a dark fluid and puts it in a small bottle. After having admired its strong nuances again, she sips it. That poison tastes good, it smells of her. One mouthful after another, it helps her doze off serenely. Transform the flaws into values. Okay, so we could take half the day to reread the poetic part and come up with some ideas and let inspiration spark. But for now, let's recapitulate. So this exercise was about my vocation, so where I am, where I would like to arrive, and my driver. And these cards basically are saying that where I am is I should do, or I can do what I can do better. And where I would like to arrive is to a place where I can connect the dots. So I might try to understand a certain situation or come to a breakthrough. And my driver is transforming the flaws into values. So it could, for example, you see, that means, for example, that I'm good at doing certain things. But I might perceive them as flaws right now. And I could transform them in an active way and being aware of them. And that would help me to connect the dots in some way. I know this is a very random interpretation right now. Maybe you have a better one, but this is a way. This was just a short life interpretation and playing with these cards. Another thing I recommend you do is to pick a card, for example, and interpret it. What does it stand for? What does it mean to you? Does it elicit some kind of response? And maybe share with another person, because they might see it differently. They might have a completely different interpretation of this card. So that's all for today. Thanks so much, and let's be creative. Thanks so much for spending this time with me, and take a look into creativity. ask certain questions and you should come up with 10 different solutions for each question. The idea here is to challenge yourself to do that every day for different questions and come up with as many ideas as you can. It's the same idea here. This Edison Deck asks you questions and you put a timer and write down as many ideas as come to your mind. Remember that we might dismiss ideas in advance because we think they make no sense or they're silly. But the point here is to first write down all these ideas. Just let them all out. And then in a second step, maybe the next day or an hour later, go over the list and do a reality check, or maybe show them to someone else, because they might see connections or they might see potential where you don't see it. Also remember that the thought or the idea that everything that can be invented has been invented is wrong, and it's not only wrong, it's inhibiting you, because you can add your own perspective, even if it's an idea that has been done before. And according to this deck, creativity is all about intuition. So you can use different ways, for example these cards, to spark your intuition and make connections. May you find the creative flame inside of you